Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jazz, and today we're going to be doing the all signs version or part of the Pluto and Aquarius video that I already did. I'll have that link down below for you guys. I talked about the Pluto in Leo generation during that video. And so this is going to be an opposition to the boomers, pretty much, their own Pluto. A lot of this will be kind of unraveling and opposing the things that they stand for. It's imperative not to say that we're blaming boomers, right? They were born with this imperative to evolve through loving the self. You know, they were born with Pluto and Leo. And so many of them did that with more self-awareness than other people. And so some of the more negative manifestations of Pluto in Leo and that generation are going to start unraveling. They already started unraveling because we've already had Pluto in Aquarius before, but now that it's in there for good, it's really going to, oppose a lot of those ideas. So I talk a little bit more about that in that video. Pluto will also be going over the south node of the US chart, which is an Aquarius, and that will be happening I believe, the first few months of 2027. The next few years for America is going to be a lot of change. Pluto goes over the south node, it's going to be almost like a karmic reckoning of the past actions. So if we can approach that with self-awareness, then great things can come about from that. And if not, then, we'll sit and see what happens and, do what we can. So without further ado, let's get into the all signs for Pluto and Aquarius. For my Aries sun, moon, and rising, Pluto has just come out of your 10th house, and I was there for 16 years, completely uprooting your relationship to what you see as successful, what you see as authoritative, your public status, your reputation, your legacy, your dealings with authority figures, and your father. These have been areas of immense transformation for you for over the last 16 years. And now it's almost like you started this brand new cycle, right? And the 10th house cycle is really interesting because it's the last of the angular houses. So it's like the zenith, the highest point of the chart. And from there, you're going down back into the first house, back into the self. So the 11th house is on its way down from the 10th house and into the 12th house of losing everything. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but where we go to dissolve, where the ego goes to lose itself. So in this space, you are now going through transformative processes and self-empowerment and evolution through your group involvement, through your friendships, through the networks that you're a part of. This could even be your social life, the greater organization that you work with. The 11th house is almost like you had so much time at the top of the chart, and then now you're almost revisioning your ideals and your hopes for the future. There are changes to that. And I think what happens when we kind of get immersed in the 10th house aspect of our lives for such a long time, and then it's followed by Aquarius, right? This is Pluto and Aquarius, and that's your 11th house. There is almost like you had to fit some sort of a mold in order to get to where you were, and you had to follow some sort of established structure. And now you're recognizing that actually the kind of leader you want to be is not a follower of those social norms. And the 11th house can be so much about wanting to be of service to humanity. And I think for a lot of you guys, you're recognizing that you can't be a follower, you have to be a pioneer. And as an Aries, that's something we say a lot, that you guys can be pioneers because you're willing to take the risk to jump into something new. And now with Pluto in your 11th house, it's giving you even more energy and transformation and power to do that. So where are you going to find empowerment and evolution in your life? It's with your networks. It's with your groups of friends. It's the people that you decide you want to serve. It's your visions and goals and dreams for the future. It's for the organizations that you're a part of. This is a house of the humanitarian. So you may have a cause that gets really, really important to you, that you feel like you have to fight for, and you can be a leader in these groups. There's this intensity to your friendship circles now, right? There is no desire to now have friendship circles that no longer align with you, or don't match the depth of the level that you're seeking, or that they're not going after the same causes as you, right? Because now you're very, very passionate about these causes, or about this new idea, this new form of evolution and life that you want to bring to the world. So if they're not matching the standards that you want, then it's going to be very difficult for you to continue with those friend groups. And you're stepping into this. And one of the things that is, I talked about this in the first video that I did about Pluto and Aquarius. I think the hardest part for a lot of people is going to be to remain objective and detached. And for you guys, it's really like what I talked about in that first video about other people's idea of progress, because you're going to have so much attachment because Pluto's here. There's a lot of empowerment coming from this cause, and your belief that, things should be a certain way, and having these idealistic visions of what the world should look like, or whatever sector you're working in should look like, and how it should be evolving, and the innovation that you want to bring there. You're going to feel very attached to that. And so what happens is that the clashes that come are going to be from people in those groups, yes. Anyone who kind of disagrees with your objectives and your idea of what progress looks like, and what you think is going to be the best thing for your group or whatever cause you're serving. And so power struggles ensue in the same places where we can take back our power, because what Pluto does is it puts us in situations in which our power is taken away from us in certain settings, depending on where this is falling in your chart, right? So for you guys, like I said, it's all the 11th house things. What it does is it gives us these obstacles in which it seems like the power has been taken away from us. And now we spend the next 19 years trying to evolve and transform our souls through the lessons of recognizing that other people cannot take our power away. They just cannot. So for you guys, it's going to be in the 11th house. There is going to be a push for you, and it already has started because Pluto's been in Aquarius since 2023 on and off. There has been a push for you since then, since March of 2023, when Pluto first moved into Aquarius, to embrace your authentic self and to find the people who will support that, the groups, the networks, the settings, the organizations, the causes that will support this new you. And new you is going to continue to evolve, but Pluto and Capricorn, especially as it was ending, has shown you what you do and do not want your legacy to be. And what ways were you conforming to standards that no longer fit the radical, authentic being that you are now? And now when you're in the 11th house, it's taking it to a new area of your life. And we're going to continue this because at the root of this, Pluto naturally rules your guys' 8th house. So Pluto is just about pure transformation for you guys, as it is for everyone. But for you guys specifically, it requires a very deep level of transformation on the psyche level. And right now it's just coming up through, like I said, the networks, groups, friends, organizations, and the people who may disagree with you. And your job is to evolve, yes, be very self-aware, and go through this death and rebirth struggle, the way that Pluto intends it, and to remain objective and detached about other people's view of progress in these groups. Maybe you don't have to align on every single thing in order for you guys to be in a group together or some sort of network together. And just remaining open, right? Aquarius is such an open sign, but the shadow side is getting tunnel vision and kind of like pulling on the negatives of the opposite of Leo, of believing that one is correct in their ways and that other people are wrong. All right, Aries, let me know how this resonates for you guys down below. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video. I'll see you guys next time. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. Pluto has left your 9th house after 16 years and has moved into your 10th house. Well, The ninth house is almost like a preparatory phase for the 10th house, the top of your chart, right? The angular house, the last angular house. When Pluto goes through your ninth house from 2008 to 2024, there has been transformation, evolution, and empowerment through your belief systems. Your belief systems have had to go under so many changes, and your outlook on life has just had to completely change. You've really devoted yourself to finding truth and meaning in this life. You may have done this from philosophy, from higher education, having a spiritual mentor or some mentor of some kind to help you through it. You could have done this through any ways that you can expand your consciousness. So that can be through travel, through reading spiritual books, partaking in spiritual rituals or spiritual practices, completely changing your idea of what is the purpose of life. And now as Pluto is moving into your 10th house for good until the beginning of 2044, it has prepared you to lay the foundations of what you want your legacy and your career and your public status and your reputation to be for the long term. Pluto in the 10th is really intense because the power struggle that you get into in order to recognize your own sense of self-empowerment are in that space, in that very public space, in the space with authority figures, in your career, with your father even, or a father figure of some sort. But it is kind of in this public outward space. And so, Tauruses tend to be quite private in that way. Yet this is exactly where you are being asked to transform in your life and to evolve and to recognize that all of these struggles are actually just trying to make you recognize the power that you have in yourself. Now, this is happening in your 10th house, and the 10th house is your long-term goals, your ambition, and your achievements as well. So all of those are going to be going through constant metamorphosis throughout this process. And for you guys, this is Aquarius, right? So we have to think about Pluto and Aquarius. I talked more about that in the first video I did. I have that link down below. For you guys, this is really about becoming radically authentic and stepping out of a lot of labels that have been imposed on you or self-imposed in your life and maybe in your career. And you're wanting to step into something new. You're wanting to be more innovative. You're wanting to be more progressive. A lot of you guys during this 20-year transit are really going to be shifting careers. And a lot of you guys may be going into a more alternative route, but that doesn't necessarily have to be true. It's just because of Aquarius being the sign that rules your 10th house. You may actually already be drawn to that, especially if you have planets in your in Aquarius as well natally. If you have that and you're not doing something that's more authentic, innovative, progressive, this transit is really going to be pushing you toward that. Now, it's hard to talk about a 20-year transit because obviously as we go through different transits with Pluto, we're going to talk about it more, but the overall theme is going to be in your social standing or your professional life of some sort. And the biggest thing right now that I think would be helpful for you guys is this is going to push you to be of service through your career to other people. And you want to have more of a community sort feel in your career. Something that you feel like is humanitarian, or that you're doing it with other people, or you're serving a big network or group of people because of Aquarius's nature. What can happen though is that we can get very passionate and intense about what we are here to do and feel a lot of pressure to do certain things in a certain way in our public standing, career, legacy. So this is where the transformation, the revolution will come over and over again. And what I will say is that one of Aquarius's greatest qualities is its ability to remain open-minded, objective, and detached. But when Pluto's there, it brings out the shadow sides of Aquarius, which can be feeling like your way is the only way, that you are right, and that people who come up against you in these power struggles that you will inevitably face are moving from an outdated pattern or an incorrect pattern. And while you may be correct in some ways, I think one of the greatest things that we can learn about Pluto in Aquarius is tolerance and acceptance for other people's views, and recognizing that we all see progress in our own ways based on the foundations that we've set in our own lives. For you guys, you just came out of this ninth house transit, right? So it's like the belief systems were uprooted and completely transformed for Tauruses and for, Taurus sun, moon, risings. And now you're moving into this place because now you have this belief that this is how life should be. And I'm going to dedicate my goals and achievements and ambitions to making sure that people see this. And yet other people may see it completely differently than you. And so learning to remain objective, detached, and open-minded is going to be really one of the major goals of Pluto and Aquarius for you guys in your 10th house. Now, Pluto naturally rules your 7th house. So every time it moves into a new house, for you guys, it always kind of relegates based off relational patterns. So for you, your relationships are a big part of your Pluto transits. So even the 9th house, the belief systems that you guys go through, the transformations of the belief systems, your relationships had a lot to do with that. And as Pluto moves into your 10th house, that's not going to change. Your relationships that you have will have a lot to do with impacting how you view Pluto in your 10th house. And as you transform, it is going to be almost like your relationships are helping you transform in that 10th house. So it's always very relationally oriented for you guys. And you can look back on the 9th house transit and see that so many of your belief systems change because of other people. Obviously, you had to do the work, right? But other people played a big role in it. And that's not going to be any different when Pluto's in your 10th. But ultimately, in the 10th house, you'll find that there is enormous self-empowerment to come from achieving ambitions that you worked really, really hard for. And that regardless of the opposition that you face, you will recognize that doesn't bring down your message. All right, Taurus, let me know how that resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. Pluto has left your 8th house after 16 years and is now moving into your 9th house. If you are lucky enough to be a Gemini, sun, moon, or rising that has gone through a Pluto in the 8th house transit, yeah, that's it. You're lucky. And I know it doesn't feel like that because Pluto in the 8th house is the complete upheaval emotionally of intimacy, of learning to trust another person. And this can come up in deep partnerships. Yes, it can come up in situations in which you have shared resources. Yes. But Pluto in the 8th house has completely excavated your psyche, your ability to bond with someone without giving your power away. And over again, seemingly your power has been taken from you from the people that you trusted the most. And you've put yourself in these situations, and these situations have been brought to you that have consistently taken your emotional power away from you. So why is this lucky, right? Because a lot of Geminis have been through very toxic situations because this is a deeply emotional house. As Geminis, it's like we like to keep it light, we like to keep it fun. But Pluto in the 8th has left us with this emotional depth that was only going to happen through a prolonged period of chaos, stress, distrust, emotional paranoia of not feeling like anybody is actually ever there for you, and that you have to do it all on your own. And so as this has left you with this like psychoanalytic understanding or psychoanalytic mind of, well, why is this happening? Why am I the way I am? Why are they the way that they are? And it has kind of plunged us into the underworld that is Scorpio. And, Pluto naturally rules your 6th house. So For you guys, wherever Pluto moves, it brings lessons through a lot of conflict, a lot of strife and adversity and illness almost, you know, like it's like through your health that a lot of things get brought out to life. And this depends on your other placements too. But the 6th house is the house of service, but it's also the house of slavery. And so Pluto for you guys is really important because that service can go to slavery really quick, especially when it's in your 8th house of Capricorn, which is a house to you that you cannot see, right? It's blind to you, to the 1st house. Pluto in the 8th, I don't want to say it dimmed the light, but it forced you underground. And coming out of that, I just got tears in my eyes. Coming out of that and Pluto going into another air sign, right? That's trine your sign in this lucky 9th house of beliefs. And it's, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say Pluto going into your 9th is just bliss and everything's perfect because it's your 9th house. So Pluto transits are difficult, but it is not what the last 16 years were. It is not. Even as I speak, and you may be watching this video later on, but I've been talking about this recently about how I feel like a lot of Geminis are in this position where they are gaining a sense of authority and trust in themselves. And I feel like this move from Pluto in your 8th house to your 9th house has given you an unshakable understanding that your power is yours. It has always been yours, and you will never put yourself in a situation in which you will that easily give it away again. Now, Pluto knows that, but it's still going to try. And this time you're going to have it in new areas of your life, this power struggle where you have to find that empowerment again. And for you guys, the 9th house, this is philosophy, higher education, spirituality. This is law and legalities. This is long distance and foreign travel, publication, expanding our horizons, exploration of truth and meaning and purpose in life. This is where we find a lot of spiritual mentors or mentors in general. This is expanding our consciousness in some way. So for us, this may be that the next 20 years look like a lot of travel. They look like a lot of exploring our belief systems and why we believe the things that we do, and Pluto giving us resistance towards that and saying, this belief system is no longer serving you and I'll show you how. It could be that we are more interested in philosophy now, or we are more interested in higher education and getting a better understanding, a more holistic understanding of the structures that reside in the 9th house, which like I said, is spirituality, philosophy, legality. For a lot of us, this could be through publication. And if you're a Gemini who loves to write, which a lot of Geminis do, this could be a time of your life where through publication, you gain authority. And in that, you may gain opposition as well, right? But the 8th house has prepared you because it has plunged you underwater. Now there is a depth to you. There is an understanding of your own power that you didn't have before. The 8th house was like this house of psyche, and you had to see your addictions for what they were. And that could be among anything, you know, relational addictions or substance addictions, whatever. And you had to really understand yourself in a way that you never had before. And you felt the aloneness in a way you would never have before. So Pluto in the 9th for you guys now is a little bit giving the pep in your step back. You know, that maybe you feel like you've lost for the last 16 years. And you're always going to be a Gemini, right? We're not going to all of a sudden turn into a Scorpio now because we had an intense 8th house transit. You know, the 9th will just continue to test that. And over the next 19, 20 years, you're going to be challenged against your belief systems. You're going to be challenged because what's going to come after that is the 10th house of career, and where you set goals and ambitions and achievements for yourself to make and to be of service to the collective. But you need to have rooted in you need to have rooted in your 9th house, right? Because this 9th house for you guys is about radical authenticity in your own belief system and stripping away the conditioning that we have received through all of our lives about what our beliefs should be, because we grew up in this culture and in this tradition, and we, you know, practiced this spiritual practice for 20 years, and so we're going to stick to it even though it doesn't align with us anymore. No, that's not going to work anymore, because Pluto's in Aquarius, and you have to be courageous enough to think outside the box, to be innovative, to be progressive, and to remain objective, open-minded, and detached about other people's belief systems during this process. Because that's where I think you guys are going to have a lot of clashing, is that people's belief systems are going to go very much against yours, and you're going to feel very attached to your belief systems, and you're going to think that their idea of the future and progress is absolutely incorrect because it doesn't match up with yours. And you may be sitting here, I mean, we've had Pluto in Aquarius, maybe this has come up for you guys already, but over the next 20 years, it for sure will. And it's going to feel a lot more difficult than I make it seem right now. Because you may be thinking, no, like, I don't really have that kind of attachment to my belief systems. I'm a Gemini, you know, but it's going to come up. And it's going to be an opportunity for you to transform through those. All right, my Geminis, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll see you guys next time. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Pluto has left your 7th house and is moving into your 8th house. Now, Pluto in the 7th house is tough, right? Because it's a foundational house. Right? It's a angular house. It affects all areas of your life because relationships are cornerstone to our lives. So for the last 16 years, there has been upheaval and issues of power and self-empowerment versus giving your power away through relationships for you guys. And I know a lot of Cancers are excited to have Pluto leave the 7th house and go into the 8th. The thing is, the 8th house is where things get really real, right? And I say, like, you know, the 7th house rules marriage contracts. The 8th house is when marriage really begins. And you don't have to be married to, you know, understand that. Is that when the hard work, the grit really gets real tough, right? You're kind of bringing two emotional beings together. And there is so much around trust in the 8th house, trust with another being. Even when we talk about how this house rules shared resources, well, sharing resources with somebody entails that you trust that person. Whether that's a business partnership or romantic partnership or a bank, there is an inherent sense of, I'm trusting you with this and you are trusting me with this. And what does that negotiation, that give and take look like? And on an emotional level, because this is inherently an emotional house, this is where Pluto is going to be bringing power struggles. When Pluto goes to the 8th house, it brings up opportunities for self-empowerment and evolution and radical authenticity because of its sign that it's in, Pluto in Aquarius, through intimacy, through deep emotional bonds. And so what can happen here is that, you know, and I just gave this really big talk about Pluto in the 8th house. Honestly, maybe some of you guys can listen to that. It's going to be a little bit different because the signs are different. But if you guys want to listen to Gemini, I talk actually a lot about them going through their 8th house process. So to see what you can expect. And I know that for a lot of Geminis, and I think for a lot of Cancers, this may be a difficult process for you, yet it is one that builds character and sears in you this idea that this power is mine. You will be put into the underworld, Pluto's area, right? This is Scorpio house. For a lot of you guys, whenever Pluto moves, because it naturally rules your 5th house, there is a lot about love, creativity, romance, and self-empowerment, self-expression here. So I think what's going to be really big for you guys is how, now that I've gone through all this Pluto in the 7th house stuff, now Pluto's moving into the 8th house, how do I maintain this sense of self that I've gained, this empowerment and understanding of who I am in relationships when I am deeply bonded with somebody else? And they may show me through power struggles that they are not here for my best interests, or that they are showing me that I can't trust them in this moment. They are bringing chaos into my life. And how do I move in that environment where I'm deeply bonded to a being, and as you guys being Cancers, you know, that emotional attachment is strong, and Pluto makes it even stronger. It's going to be a challenge of how do I keep myself in my own power that I've discovered. The 8th house will have us psychoanalyzing. A lot of people get really deep into psychoanalysis during this time of themselves and others. And this could be really great for breaking any addictive cycles. I mean, the 8th house is a watery house, right? And it's the underworld. So I always like the 4th, 8th, and 12th are all water houses. So whenever we go there, it's a time of solace, right? It's a time of going in. It's a time of going down and in. And it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't do anything out in the outer world. Absolutely not. This is a 20-year process, right? We have to look at some shorter transits as well during that time to say, hey, this would be a better time to do this, or this is a time that, regardless, in the background of it all, your evolution, your soul's evolution is going through this constantly. You know, this could even be that your career changes because of this excavation process that you're doing in your psyche. You may be getting into more mysticism. You may be really tackling taboo subjects, because that's the 8th house. And because this is ruled by Aquarius, you're really maybe even deciding to step out of social norms of how you should deeply bond with someone. And I think for a lot of you guys, honestly, a lot of Cancers, you know, Cancer is very dedicated to its roots, and it's very dedicated to its own traditions. And when Pluto goes through the 8th in Aquarius, it's going to challenge you guys to open up to new ways of being that are non-traditional. And so this may be actually one of the harder parts of Pluto and Aquarius for you guys, because the 8th house is a difficult house because you can't see it from the first house. It's almost like you don't understand it, and you're having to constantly, you know, make these like adjustments, and everything just feels so karmic when you're in it. But ultimately, it is breaking you out of a lot of old ways of being that even maybe Pluto and Capricorn kept you in, right? Because Pluto and Capricorn was, yes, about breaking down structures, but it was still about the structures itself, whereas now we're moving beyond the structures. This is a healing house as well, so you can find great healing from the things that happened while Pluto was in your 7th through relationships. And I think that really one of the biggest goals I've been telling every sign is that what happens with Aquarius oftentimes is that they can become very attached, especially Pluto and Aquarius, become very attached about their own ideals and about their own ideas of like how they think one should do things. So remaining objective, open-minded, and detached about other ways of being in intimate bonds, other ways of sharing resources, other ways of breaking addictions or managing the give and take in relationships, this karmic give and take. That might be difficult, but it will be very, very, very important for a lot of people to embody during this time. So Cancers, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, so for my Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Pluto has left your 6th house and is moving into your 7th house. Pluto naturally rules your 4th house. It is always very emotionally charged for you guys. And of course it is for everybody, but for you guys, it requires a change of your deep emotional foundations and often of your home life, right? Or moving or something like that. That brings a lot of transformation for you guys. Oh my God, right? Am I right? Am I right? Pluto being in the 6th house is quite difficult. I mean, Pluto anywhere, right? Pluto's not an easy walk in the park. Even nice Pluto transits are not the easiest. Yet they completely transform us. And so when we look back over the last 16 years and we think about the 6th house, which is illness, which is conflict, service, but also slavery, working too hard for others, suffering and adversities. It is a house of pets and your daily responsibility, your sense of usefulness and your daily routines, right? For us, the last 16 years, you've either been dealing with a lot of health issues and had to really get to the core because Pluto used illness to remind you of your own power. But really, Pluto's goal is to empower you, and it's to help you evolve and transform. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to be now doing this with your relationships and your relational patterns. Pluto in the 7th isn't generally like the easiest place either, but I think that because at least now it's in a sign that you understand more, right? Because it's your opposite. It's going to feel a little bit easier. Now, the way that Pluto in the 7th really plays out in the world is that we see our own shadow qualities reflected to us from outside people. And if we're not careful, we take those shadows that other people are showing us and believe that it's their problem. And this is where the inherent issue comes in when Pluto's in the 7th house, because you're going through these situations where people are showing you really dark qualities. And that may be difficult to recognize, is that me or them? And so this is self-empowerment at this level, because Pluto in the 6th house is the last house before we start going into the interpersonal houses, right? 1 through 6 is about us, and then 7 through 12 is about us and them. So it's almost like the last molding that we can do to who we are. And obviously it's not saying you can't ever change yourself again, but you know, it's like that's what that house really represents to me. And through suffering and adversity and illness and issues with your pets or losing pets that have really affected you, or, you know, job. This is also, this is about your job and what kind of work you do and how you're of service to the world, or you're a slave to something that you don't even want to work hard for. And all these issues that come up with the 6th house, it's because you're now understanding, like, I don't want to work hard for this. Oh, I need to live my life in this way and have these daily routines. Otherwise I get sick. Or, like pets are really transformational for me. And so therefore I want to have pets around, or I don't want to have pets around, or whatever. So it's really more still about you. And now we're entering other people. And so now you're starting to get, and you already still have, because Pluto's been in Aquarius on and off since March of 2023. I talked about that in my first video that I did. So make sure to check that out if you haven't already, where I go over like, you know, a brief overview of Pluto and Aquarius. But now it's showing you the face of you through the other. And so what happens a lot during Pluto in the 7th house transits is that people go through these periods where they're like, everybody sucks. I keep meeting, you know, really crappy people, and it's them. And, you know, I'm not saying it's not them, but as somebody who has like actually had a lot of transformation within my current relationship, it is amazing what happens to the other person and your perception of them when you start doing your own shadow work. And you give people space to change and to react differently because you are acting differently. And there's so much empowerment in that. And, you know, we have 19 years left to learn of this. So we're going to keep seeing it in different iterations. And it's up to us to see how we're going to choose it. But I think this is going to be really big for a lot of us in maintaining and having deeper connections with people. Because we're able to meet, Pluto goes here and it kind of says like, we don't want relationships that just skim the surface anymore. We want something that is, you know, merging and is something that's based on true foundation. So issues of power and control are going to come through our relationships. Isn't that fun? You know, Leo, as much as it's about the self, cares so deeply about others, and they really love being in relationships often. Okay, not all the time, but often. This is going to be really challenging us because you might find yourself in these relationships that are really complicated and they may have tinge of like betrayal and trust issues and control. And you have to figure out like how you're going to navigate that in a way that's going to be transformational for your soul and to your highest evolution. This can also, by the way, mean that the people around you, so if you're in a relationship or you have one-on-one partnerships of any kind, are going through massive transformations. And so then that's where your self-empowerment has to come in, because you cannot control how they are changing. And so then you have to work on the self-control within relationships. So they can come out in so many different ways. And This is such a long transit. We can't talk about all of the different ways it can happen, but just know that through this process, you are actually going to know so much about yourself through the other. And so don't shy away from relationships right now and depth, and maintain a established routine of shadow work, because that is really what's going to help you guys get through this, truly. This could also be because Pluto is an Aquarius after all, becoming more revolutionary and innovative and progressive in your relationships, and the struggles that you may have with people as you try to do that, because Aquarius is about radical self empowerment and radical authenticity. It's about stripping ourselves bare and saying we're no longer going to be what people want us to be, but we want to do things our way. Now, the thing is to remain objective, open-minded, and detached about what we believe is more progressive in relationships, because we will often come up with people, maybe our partners, maybe our friends, maybe a business partner, who does not agree with our ideals of how a relationship should be brought about and how it should be conducted. And so we will be challenged with understanding that just because somebody does not believe in progress the same way as us, how can I allow them to do their thing and not challenge them, and still have an open mind about it and let them be them and accept them, while still maintaining my position and believing deeply in what I believe. You're going to be put in situations where that's going to be very difficult for you in relationships, but it's going to be one of the main goals and one of the highest achievements of Pluto and Aquarius is, beyond being that radical authenticity, because it takes courage to step outside of social norms. It takes courage to say, I actually don't believe what my tribe believes, and I'm going to go find a new community that believes what I believe. Pluto and Aquarius also could be that you are willing to be of service in one-on-one situations now, because Aquarius is a service-oriented sign to communities, right? Humanitarian causes or causes that one believes in. So that could also be something that is very important to you now and will bring a lot of transformation. All right, Leos, let me know how that resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. Pluto is moving from your 5th house to your 6th house. Now, lucky you guys, I'm a Leo rising, and I just had Pluto in the 6th. So I know a lot about Pluto in the 6th. Okay, I could talk forever about it. But of course, this is happening in a different sign for you guys, and I'm really excited to talk about it. Pluto from your 5th house completely transformed, intensified, and deepened your idea of joy, your joy in life, creativity, how you enjoy life, and what you find pleasure in, your self-expression. And this could have come about through love and romance, or your children, or your power or desire for power and control through those means. So there's been a struggle there, right? A constant struggle for the past 16 years. But really, when I think about the 5th house, it's about putting your own needs, and you're expressing yourself in a way that is very intense and authentic. But we also have to be careful about, in what ways were we trying to dominate situations or people through that intensity of I need to be me, right? So now it's moving into your 6th. And it's really interesting because if you think about like the sign changes, you go from Leo to Virgo, right? The 5th house to the 6th house. And Leo is about the heart. It's about having this open heart and being like more exuberant. And then Virgo is like, okay, calm down. We got to work, right? So this is your house, right? This is your guys' house and the 6th house. So Pluto coming here is about work. It's about service. The 6th house is one of my favorite houses. The 6th and the 12th are my favorite houses because they're so complex. And it's so easy to say the 6th house is just illness and pets and work. But it is those two. So don't get me wrong. I mean, as someone, like I said, who just went through 16 years of chronic health issues that kept coming back up in different forms, I would heal them and they would come back up. It can very much be about that. But at the root of that is, what are we willing to suffer for? What are we willing to, because the difference between service and slavery is the desire to be there or not, right? Because oftentimes when I'm doing this work, you could see it as slavery, right? I mean, I put in the work to give free content, and it's a lot of work, but I enjoy it and I choose it because I want to be of service. However, if I'm in a position where I'm working for something and I'm spending, I'm overextending myself in order to get things done and I hate it, then I feel like a slave, right? And so Pluto in the 6th gives you 19 years, and you've already started getting hints of this, right? Since March of 2023, maybe you have already dealt with some health issues, or maybe you are starting to see health and wellness in a different way through having issues. But also, really, it's like, what am I doing day to day? This is the house of daily routines. What am I doing day to day? Is this serving me or not? And is this serving others? Because Virgos care about being of service to others. But once again, just like the 6th house, Virgos can become slaves to other people's desires. There is such beauty in the humility of Virgo and the putting the head down and working, because we need that, right? That there's a reason why the 6th house comes before the 10th, because we need to sit down and actually work before we start chasing the big achievements. We need to do the small things, our day-to-day things, before we can map out this massive career or whatever. And of course, you guys, this is a long transit. So it's not to say you can't work on career. But in the background, Pluto is constantly pushing you to evolve and transform and take your power back when it comes to how you are of service to the world. And that's really what it comes down to, because we can suffer a lot of conflict. This is a very conflict-ridden house. So there can be a lot of conflicts with others and a lot of adversities, and feeling like there's inequality, a lot of inequalities, and that you're on the lower end of that, right? This is a house of unequal partnerships. But yeah, it's going to ask you questions like, why is your health actually suffering? Let's get to the root of it. And because it's Aquarius is progressive and alternative. So you guys may be really, Pluto in the 6th always really kind of makes you look at the root of what's happening with your illness or, your job situation. But even in Aquarius, it just gives that extra oomph where you are really deciding to be innovative in the way that you treat your health problems. You're moving in a way that is outside of the defined box that you thought health was in. And you're looking to alternative ways to actually heal the root issues of what is happening. The challenge that Pluto in Aquarius gives us all is that it gives an intense attachment, a passionate attachment to our ideals. So for you guys, whatever the ideal might be in illness, health, work, pets, diet, all of these things, your daily routines, what it should be, you start becoming very passionate about that and very attached to it. And other people will kind of push back on that. For you guys, it may have something to do with, like I said, work or illness, but I could see this, relationally happening a lot in your work environment, or some place where you are of service if you don't have a job. You having to be very objective, open-minded, and detached about how other people are viewing the way that you are now living your life and being of service. And recognizing that they have the right to believe that, and you have the right to believe what you believe, and being truly accepting of their ways of thinking. But for you, you're recognizing that there's some sort of revolution that needs to happen because you need to become very, very authentic right now. What do I want to be of service for? Who am I? What do I stand for? What do I want my day-to-day life to look like? What do I want my health to be, right? Depending on, what age you are, especially that this is happening, it's going to be affecting different areas of your 6th house, right? If you're retired, it might not happen in your work house unless you decide that you do want to be of service and you do want to go back to work in some capacity. And if you're, 12, then it's probably not going to be about your job, but it's 20 years. So by the end of it, you're going to be in your 30s, which is kind of crazy to think about. Where will we be in 20 years, 19, 20 years? Virgos, this is a big one for you guys. I'm really excited for you. Make sure you watch the first video that I did about Pluto and Aquarius to get a better overview of what kind of changes may be happening in your 6th house because of Pluto in Aquarius' sign, and how you are going to be deciding to kind of like be of service to something bigger than yourself, because Aquarius is community. It is networks, right? And it's humanity and it's equality. You're looking to be of service in some way. Yeah. So Virgos, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video. I will see you guys next time. For my Libra sun, moon, and risings, Pluto is moving out of your 4th house forever. Well, in your lifetime. And is moving into your 5th house. Right? Like, it's almost just like a sigh of relief for Pluto being in the water houses for all of the air signs has been a really intense process that has deepened a lot of the air qualities, because the water houses are our emotions, right? And air signs are not water signs. So not to say we don't have emotions, but we don't naturally attune to them consistently unless you have a lot of water in your chart. But I'm just talking about Libra generally does not consistently attune to the emotions first. It's the thoughts. Pluto being in your 4th, the deepest part of your chart, the lowest part of your chart, the darkest part of your chart for the last 16 years has uprooted your emotional foundations. Point blank, period. You know, we can talk about your home life, yes. Your relationship to your parents, yes. Your relationship to your family, yes. People who live with you, yes. But at the core, it is your emotional foundations that were generally built in childhood. Pluto says, where are all of the buried emotional residues that are creating this life for you now? Let's transform them. And so there could have been a lot of changes that completely tore you to shreds internally in your home life. So, you know, we talk about how just because you don't have Pluto in the 4th doesn't mean you can't go through something like a divorce. But when Pluto is in your 4th and your home life falls apart, the death feels just different. Right? So it's the same thing as like when you have Pluto in the 8th and somebody dies, but this is a complete upheaval, you know, whereas people die all the time and people take it differently and they see it differently. But when Pluto's in the 4th, the changes in the home are just really, really transformational. And this is where Pluto, you know, wanted you to evolve. But now it's moving into your 4th and from your 4th to your 5th. And it's been there off and on since March of 2023. So you've gotten some sort of taste of it already. Honor the hard work that you've done with Pluto in the 4th and know that the hard work isn't over, but now you're dealing with a fellow air sign, right? So this becomes quite easier for you guys to deal with, even though it's still going to be difficult because it's Pluto, right? And the path to evolution is destruction. And destruction is never fun. It's never easy. But it's what Pluto desires for us because it wants us to, our souls to continue to evolve and transform to the highest self, and just chooses different areas for that to happen. So for you guys now, it's a 5th house. So what's the 5th house? This is the house of pleasure, creativity, joy, entertainment, self-expression. It's a house of your children, romance, your love life, and dating. It's really about finding like that childlike spirit again. So when Pluto goes through your 5th house and, you know, is excavating all these things, you are changing the way that you put yourself out in the world. Now, this is different than like if it was going through your 1st house, right? Because this is a complete change in identity and perspective and attitudes. The 5th house is how you express yourself. So how you go throughout the world, whether that's through love, whether that's through entertainment and activities that you do, or creativity. Creativity is a big one in this house. How do you show up in that part of your life? And you may be really invested in this area now. Maybe you're more invested in your children's life. Maybe you're more invested in wanting children. Maybe you're more invested in maintaining and creating this childlike spirit that you feel like you have lost out on for some reason. Maybe you are really getting in touch with your creative impulses now. or your romantic impulses, and you're really diving deep into, is the romance and love that I have in my life actually indicative of what I want, what I desire? This is Leo's house. This is a very desirous house. But what can happen a lot of times is that Pluto can show up as wanting these new things, but then also these things are pushing back at us, because the goal of Pluto is that you take back your power. So where it's going through your chart is showing you places where you are going to be met with power struggles in order to recognize that we need to take that power back. So for you guys, it's in all of those things that I just mentioned, in creativity, in with your children, or having children, childbearing, or in your romance and dating and love life, or in activities that you do for pleasure and fun. These are areas where you may be very intense about now, and you may be wanting to control those areas. And so, of course, when we want to control, we are met with people or situations that push back and remind us that we are not in control in that way. You may actually be like, your attitude towards play, entertainment, fun, creativity may be very intense right now. And you may be really desiring deep experiences from that rather than just like this light-hearted experience. I remember when Pluto was in my 5th house from the sun, or no, it was from my rising. Yeah, it was from my rising. I really, especially towards the end of it, like really craved really intense fun. And those exact things brought me a lot of transformation through some difficulty. So your creative urge may be very strong, and you may desire to take this seriously, but or you may desire to be in love and have romance. And mind you, if you're in an established relationship, you can still want love and romance, and you may desire that more from your partner now. But you may be kind of controlling about it. And so you're going to get pushback, and this is where you're going to recognize that these are my pleasures. These are my, and how can I meet them without desiring to control another or acting to control another? Your idea of what it means to enjoy life is going to go through metamorphosis. Now, what I do want to say, because Pluto is an Aquarius, and I did a video on Pluto and Aquarius, make sure to check that out if you haven't already. But Pluto and Aquarius is very much about radical authenticity. So this is about you uncovering the parts of you that want to have fun or want love, romance, or want to have creativity that maybe don't fit the norm, right? That maybe you've put yourself in a box, or other people have put you in a box, and you've obliged to that. That now you are willing to step out and say, no, I am more than this box, and I want to live my life in this way. And within that, there's going to be inherent power struggles once again. Yeah, you're thinking outside the box. The thing with Pluto, though, is that it becomes very attached to its ideals, especially in Aquarius. So remaining open-minded, objective, and detached about other people's ideas and views of the progress you're making, and how you should be having children, how you should be in romantic relationships, how you should be pursuing entertainment and joy and pleasure, how you should be pursuing your creative ideas and businesses. Being open-minded about that and knowing that your way is not the only way is also going to be another way in which Pluto presents challenges to us. Now, Pluto naturally rules your guys' 2nd house. And so a lot of the transformations that you go through when Pluto is moving through your chart has to do with money and self-worth. So there might be some issues of self-worth or money that are always preventing you from stepping out and evolving. And so those are things that you always have to tackle when it comes to Pluto for you guys. All right, Libras, let me know how that resonates for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. All right, so for my Scorpio sun, moon, and rising, Pluto has left your 3rd house and is now moving into your 4th house. Now, Pluto's your ruler. So Pluto's movements are slow, but you feel it. Boy, do you feel it. And you are no stranger to transformation as a Scorpio person. But it doesn't mean it's easy, right? It's just that you have come into this life with this lesson of learning to be somebody, depending on where you have Scorpio, someone who is transforming a lot is doing the work on that very deep level constantly. Pluto being in the third house had a lot to do with your mindset. It had a lot to do with learning skills and deciding to study something that was important to you for a long term. And it had a lot to do with communication for you guys. Communication could have been an area where there were a lot of power struggles for you, and there could have been a low tolerance for having really lighthearted discussions. You just wanted to get to the root of things. You wanted to, all that like Plutonian intensity went into your communication mindset. But the third house is your immediate environment. It's everything that surrounds you. So it's very intense having Pluto in the third, because it almost means that no matter where you go, you bring this intensity into your immediate environment, and you cannot escape it. And your immediate environment, no matter where you are, will continue to bring intensity and transformational events to you that you cannot ignore. And all of that requires you to have to change your mindset. Otherwise, you go crazy, right? Because that Pluto in the third house can make this mind so probing and desiring like the root cause of things and understanding things at a very deep level and wanting to control everything and control how they think and control how they talk, and then recognizing that you can't, and it was always you, and that was the only thing that you could have controlled ever. Now that struggle, that power struggle, and that empowerment really that comes from it is moving into your fourth house, your home. This is the place, the deepest part of your chart where we go to rest, your private life. This is your emotional foundations, your parents, your childhood memories and traumas, your roots. When Pluto goes into the fourth, it is a time, anytime it goes into a water sign house, it is a time of looking beneath the surface. Right? So you've been kind of in the mind, you've been up here, right? Now you are going deep into the emotional body. And as a Scorpio dominant person, this may not be so weird for you because you guys do live very much in the emotional world, but this is different, right? Because Scorpio rules and the eighth house rule intimate bonding with another, but the fourth house is just you. So it's putting you in a situation where you have to focus a lot of the transformational qualities deep within yourself, deep within your own emotional foundation. So a lot of people do psychotherapy. Any changes that are made in the home can feel devastating at this time because Pluto's influence here makes us cling. What I see happening for a lot of Scorpios during this time, because Pluto is in Aquarius, right, in your fourth house, is that there is going to be pressure for you guys to be very innovative and progressive in your home life, whether that means your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your family and people you live with, or your relationship to the self. And it may be kind of different than what you were told was right, but you have to be radically authentic because that's what Pluto and Aquarius wants. I did a video already kind of doing the themes of Pluto and Aquarius, so make sure you guys watch that. If you haven't already, I'll have that linked down below. But yeah, it's about radical authenticity and stepping outside of the labels and the social constructs that have been told to us that this is the right way to have a home. This is the right way to have a family. And you are in this process of evolving in that. And so, what happens a lot is that there may be power struggles and control issues within the home life. There may be power and control issues with your parents or with your family members or within yourself. Within your deep emotions, you uncover the roots of so much of the power struggles that you may have, or you have to uncover the trauma of what you went through as a child and how that's affecting your current situation today. So you have 19 years to do this, and it's going to present to you in multiple different ways how you can empower yourself and evolve and grow and transform from the information you find deep within yourself. Pluto and Aquarius, one of the shadow aspects of it, it can become very attached to its ideals. So you may now, over the next 19, 20 years, decide that you want to move in this new way that's offbeat and that's more community driven rather than for the self. And then other people push back, or other people are doing the same thing but in different ways, and they are telling you that your way is incorrect, or you're telling them that their way is incorrect. one of the best things about Aquarius is its ability to remain objective, open-minded, and detached about other people's viewpoints, their viewpoints on progress and their thoughts, their ideals. So this is what we want to try to maintain when we're in those control and power struggles of how we're doing things and how other people want us to do them, to remember that we are not correct just because we feel like we are, and that we can feel that we are correct while maintaining that other people can still have their own opinions, and accepting that, and being very, very objective and open-minded and accepting of other viewpoints. And for you guys, like I said, it's going to be around how you are dealing with these deep emotions and how you are dealing with your home life. Other people may not like it. Could even be your family members, people you live with, your parents, your family, your whole family could be opposing it in some way. And you have this goal of becoming and staying objective and open-minded and loving them, even though they're different, right? Because this is the sign of equality. Progress, yes. Innovation, yes. Revolution, yes. And also equality. And being of service, so you may find that through this process, you've decided that you want to be of service to humanity through doing this deep emotional work. All right, Scorpios, let me know how that resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, so for my Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Pluto has left your second house after 16 years and is moving into your third house for the next 19 years. Now, Pluto has been in this part of your chart, the third house, on and off since March of 2023, so you've gotten a little taste of this. But let's talk a little bit about what the last 16 years were like with Pluto in the second house. So the second house is your money, your values, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your resources, how you spend money. It can also be money that you make from your job. So the fluctuations here have been massive, right? And this is naturally a earthy house. So it has a lot more to do with the actual earthy aspects of life, like money, but the self-worth and self-value come from the ruler Venus, right? So we find very often that money and resources are actually very tied in energetically to self-worth and self-value and self-esteem. So when Pluto was in that part of your chart, there were a lot of ups and downs and major upheavals in your finances. And it also made you kind of more possessive and controlling over your finances and your resources as well. You also had throughout that process a big transformation in how you view yourself and your values in this life, your self-esteem. And so your money could have been something that kind of mirrored your self-esteem. So if you didn't feel good about yourself, you needed more money. And that kind of fluctuated a lot. And so there's a lot of lessons about loss and gain and changes when it comes to your self-worth as well as your resources. And now, after 16 years of bringing really big upheavals here and really pushing you to evolve and transform in understanding why you spend money, how you want to make money, and what kind of resources you want to have in this life, but also what do you want to embody in the sense of self-esteem and your own sense of value and worth. Now, Pluto is moving into your third house, and the third house is kind of complex because it's so large, right? The third house is your immediate environment. So it's just like everything that's around you, the people you live with, the routines that you normally have, driving to work, your cousins, sibling, neighbors. It's learning new skills or, just learning anything new subjects. Most of all, it's your mindset and it's your communication and your thoughts as well. So when Pluto moves into the third, it really intensifies the mind process, the thought process, and the mindsets that we have. So there can be this desire now to only have really intense and deep conversations, and you may be coming off quite intense in communication and finding power struggles because of that, because people can sense the intensity that you're coming out with, because it starts with your mind, right? The intensity starts in your thoughts, and then when you communicate it out to others, it comes off very intense as well. And through sensing that, there can be power struggles because you may kind of come off as a know-it-all, and that may be difficult for people around you to kind of deal with. You may be desiring to learn skills that are really deep, that you want to invest yourself in, that you want to learn something that is meaningful to you and has that power and intensity. So this could be something like you're wanting to study psychoanalysis or learn some sort of psychoanalytic skill of some kind, because it has a depth and intensity that you require. You may start getting into murder mystery more or something like that because of this desire for depth and unrooting and uncovering the deeper truths of everything. Getting the true facts. What is the actual essence of what is being communicated, of what I'm reading, of what is happening? When Pluto comes into the mind space, it really can affect our entire lives, right? This is why the third house is the immediate environment, because how you communicate changes, how you react to other people changes, because your mind is changed. So now Pluto is pushing you to evolve and become very transformed through this process. Wherever Pluto goes in our chart, it is pushing us to take our own power back. And for you guys, this is going to be in a space of communicating with other people and your immediate environment. So you might find that people that are around you all the time or around you most times are going to be challenging to you. And really what this comes down to is they are responding to your own sense of intensity. So what Pluto requires of us is to look at our situation, look at everything around us, look at our communication, look at our thoughts, look at our relationship with our neighbors, sibling, cousins, and think, could I be the problem? And seeing the empowerment that comes with that, of recognizing that there can be intensity and depth in the way that you speak to others without trying to control them or invite them into this battle of the wills. Especially with Pluto being in Aquarius, which is a very open-minded, futuristic, detached, and objective sign. That is one of the goalposts that we are putting out for this Pluto in Aquarius, is to, while we may feel very attached to our own ideas and ideals about what communication should look like, what our immediate surroundings should look like, what kind of skills people should be learning and how they should be learning them, allowing other people to have their own way, because not everyone is you. And so allowing other people of having their own way of doing things, they don't have to communicate like you, they don't have to think as deeply as you are during this transit, and letting that be okay, because Aquarius is a sign of equality and humanity. So it's about acceptance of others and equalizing everybody rather than thinking that you're better than somebody, right? That's more of a Leo thing, but even then, like, you know, that comes out quite negatively, but it's just like what Leos are here to recognize themselves and their importance. Whereas Aquarius is here to see everybody as equals. Pluto in Aquarius is going to require us to shed all the layers of ourselves that we have constructed to fit the norms that aren't actually us, thereby inducing this sense of radical self-authenticity and stepping out into these ideals that we have. For you guys, it's around communication. It's around how you have relationships with the people around you at all times, or that are around you on a regular basis. All of the third house things. You may be desiring to explore more innovative skill sets, right? That are saying like psychoanalytic, but maybe they may be something that's more taboo or not as known or more alternative or something like that. Regardless, the pushback that you're getting from your immediate environment and the way that you want to speak and the power struggles that you have through communication are going to be essential for you to transform during this time. So how can we open to that more, right? And this Pluto in Aquarius is pushing us to in some way be of service or to be part of a community, to, instead of just thinking about the self, thinking about the whole, and in what areas of our lives are we wanting to be a part of something bigger, and what will that require of us in order to be a part of that group, and is that going to give up our radical self-authenticity, because that probably means it's not the right group for us. But there are some parts of us that we can be willing, that are non-essential, that we can be willing to transform in order to be in the communities that feel good to us, right? And so that's going to be part of Pluto in Aquarius in general. And Pluto naturally ruling your 12th house means that a lot of what Pluto is about for you guys is a lot of subconscious work. It's a lot of spirituality that goes into everything. So I feel like for a lot of you guys, you're going to be wanting to learn skills that pertain to spirituality in some way. But for you guys, Pluto is a very mystical planet. It brings a lot of like kind of deeper healing to you, and you have to really look at your psyche and your subconscious and your spirituality and meditation, all these things that help you kind of get through the Pluto movements that you go through. And it also means that every time that Pluto moves into a certain part of your house, it's almost like you have to completely rewire your subconscious in order to gain what Pluto wants to give to you through evolution and transformation. So Sagittarius, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and I will see you guys next time. All right, so Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Boy, Pluto has done quite the thing for you guys over the last 16 years. Completely changing you. Completely changing you. Your appearance, your identity, your body, your personality, your approach to life, your attitude. Pluto in the first has been an existential crisis. Your whole life has been just turned inside out over and over again, and you've had to rediscover who you are at your core, at your essence, and rebuild a lot of your life according to that, okay? But it has given you a lot of issues around power and control, right? Because where Pluto moves through, it gives us lessons on self-empowerment of taking our power back. So when it moves into the first house, it's almost like you are the one that's holding you back from this healthy level of self-empowerment. It's easy with Pluto in the first house, especially in Capricorn, to feel like dominating, to feel controlling, and to feel like you have the right to do that because of Pluto's essence that has taken over you. Yet you find over and over again, you're finding yourselves in these situations where you are overly demanding, overly controlling, overly authoritative, and people don't want to be around that. Or, you know, that everything starts falling apart, relationships start falling apart, because this is looking at your 7th house because of that. And so through that, you've had to evolve into a healthier sense of control, and that's control of the self. And knowing that just because you have the power doesn't mean you need to exert it on other people all the time. But now it's moving into your 2nd house. So now we're moving from the self and the body and the attitude and the identity and the ego into your house of resources and values. Now the transformation and the evolution and the self-empowerment comes through changes and struggles in power and control of your values, of your self-esteem, and of your money and resources. Also through your job. So it could be through your job that you're feeling these issues. And you've already had a little bit of this, right? Because you have had Pluto in your 2nd house on and off since March of 2023. I talk more about that in the first part of the video that I did. I'll have that link down below. But you've already been dealing with some of those themes, so it's not going to be completely new to you, but now you're going to have 19 years to work through this in different ways. And so what can happen with Pluto in the 2nd is that your sense of value and what you value in life and what is important for your resources change. And the change is not through, is through these massive upheavals, these massive excavations that happen in your sense of self-worth and what resources you have and what value you give to those resources. Your whole idea of what is meaningful and what needs to be held on to and what can I release completely changes. A lot of times there are power and control issues. So there could be like control issues around money that come up very often during this next 19 years that show you that it's not in money that you find power, but in your self-worth. So if you put your power in money, you're going to see how that limits and controls you by you trying to control and limit it. Okay? And these are lessons that you're going to be learning during this time. Now, Pluto naturally rules your 11th house, which is the Aquarian house, right? So Pluto in Aquarius for you guys is going to be about what networks and organizations that you're a part of, and do they represent the kind of values that you are trying to redefine for yourself? Because this is Pluto in Aquarius, you're asked to become radically authentic and step out of the social norms of what it means to have value and resources and money in your life. This could be that for a lot of Capricorns, your whole idea of what money is and what it does for you changes. And, we think of Capricorn, we immediately think of money. And this could be really just revolutionary for so many Capricorns to understand that there is something beyond finances, there's something beyond resources, and it's service. It's recognizing that it's not just about making money, but it's about making money doing what we believe is being of service and of value to ourselves and others. Being innovative and thinking outside of the box on ways that you can make money. Whenever we have more, usually I would say Mars, but even Pluto in the second, it really pushes us to kind of be our own boss, to make money in our own way. And so, of course, when you go into business, this naturally brings about these fluctuations in wealth, right? And so it kind of induces that transformation that happens through upheaval and death and rebirth through the second house because of Pluto, because you're deciding that you want more authenticity in the way that you make money. And you can definitely do that within an organization as long as it has the same values as you, and it's fighting the same fight that you want to fight, however that is to be of service to humanity. It really changes from just being worried about the self when we have Pluto in the first, now being in Capricorn, to now Aquarius, which is more community-minded, service-oriented, humanitarian, and equality-based. One of the goals of Pluto in Aquarius is going to be able to be objective, open-minded, and detached about how other people decide or do not decide to be progressive about their own values and money. So you may have these struggles, these power struggles, control issues within the second house things that invite you to be more tolerant and accepting of other people's viewpoints while following your own path, and not denouncing them and saying that their way is wrong, your way is right. And that's going to feel a lot harder when Pluto is in Aquarius for some of us, really for all of us at different points in our lives, because this is such a long transit. We're not always going to be on our A game, right? Like, we're not always going to be the best that we can be, and we can really be detached and objective, but we may get really attached to our sense of value and what we believe is the right way to be in the world, and the right values to have, and the right way to make money, that other people saying that no, you should be doing this way is going to feel difficult for us to listen to at times. So Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, please let me know how this resonates for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content, and I will see you guys next time. All right, so for my Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Pluto has left your 12th house and has moved into your first house. Pluto transits are never easy, but I always say the 4th, 8th, and 12th are one of the hardest because they're watery houses, and for the air signs, that's where it's been happening. And for logical and more detached air signs, the 4th, 8th, and 12th house having this intensity of Pluto has been so incredibly transformational over the last 16 years. And for you guys specifically, because you are completely moving into a new cycle. You are moving into a new cycle that you started in March of 2023. I talk more about that in the first part of the video, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Now it is moving there for good for 19 years. The power is in your sign, in the highest qualities of Pluto. Now that brings a lot of responsibility. I just got done talking to Capricorns about Pluto being in their first. Pluto moving into your first, especially from your 12th, where it was in this like very dark, unseen place, right? It was excavating these parts of us that we didn't even know existed, because it needed to purge our subconscious, needed to purge our psyche in order to prepare us for the power that comes with having Pluto in your sign. And so we had to do the things, the spirituality, the meditation, the the retreats, the self, looking at the self-sabotaging behavior and the self-undoing behaviors, because if we didn't and we moved right into Pluto in the first, we would have completely been lost it, because the sense of power when Pluto goes into your first house is immense, and the responsibility that comes with that is huge. So you guys, in the video that I did for the first part, I talked about what Pluto and Aquarius themes can be, and obviously that's a lot of what you are here to do, because you are an Aquarius person. When Pluto comes into your first house, expect that your entire life is changing over and over again over the next 19 years to bring the core of you out and up and out and up over and over again. Because with this responsibility of having Pluto in the first, we are looking to you as some sort of like example. And it's not personal, it's just because you are embodying the Aquarius shadows and also lights. So that's why it's very important for Aquarius during this time to be very aware of their shadows, because you are going to feel that sense of everything I just talked about, that power. And you, even though you're an Aquarius and you are very community minded and you are very much about equality and acceptance and tolerance, when Pluto's there, you get an attachment to the self and you get attachment to that power. And so there can be a lot of issues around being too controlling about what you believe is right, about what you've decided to do with your life. And that's the way that everybody should be, because you represent ideals and progress and visions. And therefore, what you believe is what everyone should believe. And so for you guys, I talk about for every sign how the goal is to be objective, open-minded, and detached about other people's views of progress, because Aquarius can get very attached to their own ideas of what it means to be progressive and innovative. For you guys, this is going to be coming up very strongly, and you're going to have direct oppositions to you. And in a way, those direct oppositions, if you see them as a way to balance out your own sense of power, and recognize that it's a responsibility that you have to use that power in a more healthy and moderated way, and to be that example, to be objective and open-minded and detached, even though you hold the power, is going to be very transformational for the collective and all of their Aquarian themes that we go through and the Aquarius parts of everybody's chart. That's the kind of power I'm talking about. Pluto is going to require you to strip all the things that you have collected that are no longer a part of you, to show up for everybody and yourself as this new version of you, to show others that you can do it, right? That if you can do it, they can do it. Now, Pluto naturally rules your guys' 10th house. So I feel like for a lot of Aquarius people, this has something to do with your social status, your public status, your legacy, your career. It could be that, there are changes in your career based on now recognizing this innate sense of power. And I'm feeling like the 10th house, the career, your achievements, your ambitions are going to radically change alongside you. And depending on if you're, sun, moon, or rising in Aquarius, that's going to feel different. For your rising, it would be like your actual, how you show up in the world, your body, your actual personality. If it's your sun, it's like who you're meant to be in this world. Your conscious embodiment is changing. And a lot of times sun has to do with career too, so it could also be double about your career for you. But it's like the sun is your soul, right? And the moon is your emotions and your unconscious, whereas the sun is conscious, the moon is unconscious. So Pluto on the moon is very emotionally intense. Not bad, but you are definitely going to have to deal with a lot of dark emotions, deep dark emotions. So yeah, I think for you guys, the biggest thing I have to say is to continue doing shadow work, and to, Pluto in the 12th house required a lot of solitude. It required a lot of loss and grief and healing, and a lot of, spirituality and silence and meditation possibly. Don't forget those practices as you move into this place where Pluto is empowering you, because it will keep you more balanced. And don't neglect relationships, Because like I said, there is a tendency when Pluto's in the first to become overly dominating and controlling, and your relationships suffer. So if people are continuously telling you that you are too controlling, too dominating, too authoritative, too rigid in your beliefs and in your ideas of progress, listen to them. You may be blinded to some aspects of how controlling or powerful you're coming off as. Okay, Aquarius, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Pluto has left your 11th house after 16 years and is now moving into your 12th house. Pluto in the 11th was about you finding empowerment within groups, organizations, and your larger networks. Finding your own sense of self within that. And through power struggles with the people that are supposed to support you, or your networks, or the organizations that you belong in, through that process, you were empowered to understand that you are a unique individual and that you have a lot to offer your community as well. Now, as you move into Pluto in the 12th, know that you are entering a period, and you've already entered it, right? Because as I talked about in the first video I did on Pluto and Aquarius, that Pluto has been in this part of your chart already in the 12th house from March 2023 on and off. And I talked more about the dates in that video. But you've already had a taste of this, right? Of Pluto in the 12th. But you're now going to have 19 years to deal with it. So let me just say, let's talk about the 12th house is about. Okay, the 12th house is the house of Pisces, where our ego goes to dissolve. It's a place of solitude. It's a place of grief and loss and closure. It's a place of self-undoing because it's invisible to the first house. So it's areas in our lives in which we are hurting ourselves without even knowing it, right? We have these subconscious patterns, these self-undoing patterns that we do in our lives without even knowing, that are affecting our entire world negatively. This is a house of spirituality. It's a house of isolation and overseas travel. It's a house of hidden enemies, faith, things that are invisible to us, spiritual practices. So when Pluto goes into the water houses, it brings about this deep reflective quality for that time period. And of course, you know, you guys are going to go through tons of transits that are going to push you out into the world during the next 19 years. So it's not like you're just going to be hermiting for 19 years. But Pluto's presence back here always says that the evolution and the transformation, no matter what you're going through with the other shorter transits, is happening in the 12th. And the reason I want you guys to think about what's happening, okay? The 12th house is, we're coming down, 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 right? The 10th house is the end, or the zenith of our chart, the top of our chart. And then it goes 11th, and then it goes 12th. And then we start going back up again 1, right? And then we completely redo our whole life. So I talk a little bit about Pluto. I mean, I talk a lot about Pluto moving into the first house with Aquarius. So if you want to listen to that, I go into depth about what it means. So, but I don't want you guys to think too much about it because it's not going to happen until 2044 for you guys, right? But I want you guys to understand that the whole evolutionary process of Pluto's movement right now is to prepare you, is to excavate, to divulge all and get rid of all of these things that are in your subconscious that are preventing you from being the person that you are. The things that you haven't been able to see that are not helping you transform. It is through all of these like meditation, spiritual practices where you will doing subconscious work. This is where you will find healing. And this is where you will find transformation for the next 19 years. And so it requires a sense of commitment. And when Pluto's in the 12th, there is this constant chaos that's happening in your subconscious. And so it keeps bringing you back internally to see what is happening. And that's what I'm saying. It's so important to have a spiritual practice or meditation, something that allows you to be with yourself, because the world is going to continue to push you in a way in which you recognize the chaos in your subconscious needs to be dealt with. And on an evolutionary purpose, like I said, it's because it's preparing you for Pluto and Pisces. So you may say that's a really long time, but if you look at the whole world and, the universe time, that 19 years is nothing. Pluto for you guys naturally rules your 9th house. So there's a lot of belief systems that have to be transformed in order for you to move forward. Anytime that you're going into the subconscious thoughts, you're doing your spiritual practice or trying to, this is a lot of like moments. Pluto in the 12th will bring a lot of power struggles within your own mind. When you are in solitude or doing this healing work or working your spiritual practice. So like if you're in a spiritual field, you may find a lot of power and control issues happening there. And when you're doing this work, this spiritual work, you're going to notice that a lot of your belief systems are intertwined with these self-undoing behaviors. And so in reconciling that, you are also having to transform your beliefs, your philosophy on the world. Your idea of meaning and truth and wisdom and purpose in this life have to be transformed as well, not just your psyche. A lot of times when Pluto goes through the 12th, it's very helpful for us to work with people in mental hospitals, or prisons, people who are deeply disadvantaged in some way and are kept in a place of solitude, because we are dealing with a lot of karma here. And the 12th house, just like the 6th, is of service, but it's of service in a new way, right? So for a lot of you guys, you may be moving into actual like spiritual service and wanting to help people who are dealing with misfortune or who are disadvantaged in life. So this could be like the homeless or children who have been abused or people who have been in abusive situations or just people who need help, right? The 12th house. And as you guys, Pisces, like you guys love helping people, like that's your whole thing, is giving yourselves to the other. And I think what's going to happen during this is that you're going to be pushed, if you are a service-oriented person, pushed into being of practical service. And only by doing your own spiritual work can you be of practical service right now and throughout this transit. Because Pluto is also an Aquarius, you're going to be pushed to be innovative and radically authentic in your spirituality as well. So if there are spiritual practices or belief systems that you've grown up with that you feel like your community needs you to have these beliefs or this way of doing spirituality, you're being pushed to really be brave enough and courageous enough to step outside of the box that you feel like you've been put in, and to maybe introduce new spiritual dynamics or new spiritual beliefs. And this could be in service to others, but it could also be for your own self, right? That you have decided to pursue a more unique path that maybe other people around you don't understand. And so it's your job to stand up for that and become empowered in your decisions while not trying to control other people's ideas, and remaining detached and open-minded and objective about differing opinions and letting people do things their own way, even if that's not a way that you understand or you like. Or even if they're pushing back against the ways that you are changing, recognizing that they have the ability to do that, and that doesn't mean that they're wrong and you're right. This power and control struggle, right? In the way that you want to lead a spiritual life. For a lot of you guys, going overseas or doing retreats during this time can be incredibly healing and bring a lot of transformation for you guys. Really, because the 9th house is involved too for you guys. Any sort of long distance travel, like where you have to meet, really just think anywhere you really have to get on an airplane for, that would be hard to drive. Because when you think about it that way, it's areas that are generally far away from you that probably don't live life the way that you do, right? And so being exposed to different ways of doing things could be very, very healing for you guys at this time. All right, so Pisces, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and I will see you guys next time.